Good evening and welcome to our Hampstead Garden Suburb Synagogue annual Shavuot tea. This is when we feature a guest speaker followed by our Chochmat Lev Awards to honor women in our community. This year we had organized Racheli along with her family to join us for the entire holiday of Shavuot. But unfortunately, God had other plans. However, we decided that the show must go on, even virtually. We are honored to partner with Sohar. Thank you to Adam Siegel for making the shidduch. Racheli Sprecher Frankel was born and raised in Israel. She is a Yoetzet Halacha, a women's halachic advisor, teaches Talmud and Halacha at Nishmat Seminary for Women, and is director of Matan's Advanced Halachic Program. She's a mother of 7 and lives with her family in Nov Ayalon. Mrs. Frankel is co-founder of the Jerusalem Unity Prize and Unity Day Project. Her son Naftali, with Gilad Sha'ir and Nayal Yifrach, were the 3 boys kidnapped and murdered by terrorists in 2014. Most recently, she hosted the historic Global Women's Siyum Hashas, the completion of the Talmud. Here are some of the highlights.
אחרי 7.5 שנים סיימנו את הש"ס.
הדרן הלך, ועכשיו מתחילים שוב.
פותחות דף ביחד.
הצטרפי אלינו.
לא עוד ספר נעול בפנינו, אלא כל אחת ואחת יכולה ללמוד. סיום הש"ס העולמי לנשים. שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
דברי חכמים כדורבנות. חז"ל במדרש קהלת רבה אומרים חדורבנות זה כדור של בנות. יגול עפר מעיניך הדרשן של קהלת רבה. תראה חבורה של בנות יחד כתף אל כתף שמחות בתורה, משתעשעות בה, לא מוותרות על אף מילה. תראו אתכם, 3,300 נשים באו הערב לחגוג כאן.
ספר הגמרא היה בבחינת כלי גבר, והנה אנחנו כאן הערב, חווים את זה, את השלב הבא בתהליך הגאולה, ועל שמכן יירשם המהלך הגדול הזה של גאולת התורה.
התורה מוסתרת בענן, כאילו הקדוש ברוך הוא מסתתר מאיתנו בענן. כשפתאום אתה מגלה שמה שנראה לך כמחיצה, כהסתר, כחומה בצורה, הוא בעצם יד מושטת. רק נדרשת האמונה לראות את הדברים.
What an extraordinary gathering this is. The Gemara tells us of a moment in the time of Rabban Gamliel when the doors of the Beit Midrash were opened and Judaism became a democracy of learning, not just an aristocracy of one. Today, the doors of the Beit Midrash have opened in this new sense, and this too is an epoch-making event. This really is making history.
אמא שלי שאלה אותי את השאלה הזאת. היא אמרה, למה דווקא גמרא? אגב, אבא שלי לא שאל את השאלה, הוא הבין את התשובה מראש. והוא מאוד תמך. הוא קנה לי ולאחותי את הגמרות שלנו, אחותי גם בקבוצה.
שרה שנירר שהקימה את בית יעקב, זו הייתה המטרה שלה. לחבר את הבנות, את הנשים, חזרה לעולם הרוחני, לעולם היהודי.
There was one enduring question that kept surfacing for me in learning the daf. What is human life worth? How blessed I am. We all are making this siyum together in Yerushalayim.
The Talmud belongs to each and every one of us, and this global effort will ensure that our Masorah continues to thrive throughout our world and throughout our lives. And now, the climax we're all waiting for. Wonderful!
נשים שמחדשות חידושי תורה ומעניקות רובד חדש לטקסטים היהודיים. הפוך בה והפוך בה, דיקולה בה. ועצר עליו מסכת נידה ותלמוד בבלי ועצר עליו. לא תתנשי נידה מסכת נידה ותלמוד בבלי ולא תתנשי נידה. לא בעל נעדה ולא בעל נתזה.
יכול להיות שהגענו אנחנו לשלב שאנחנו כבר לא שלמות בלי לימוד התורה הזה, ושהקדוש ברוך הוא יראה את המאמץ שלנו וייתן לנו אותה במתנה.
Wow. What a powerful event. That was amazing. But before, Racheli, welcome. Before I ask you to tell us about the background of all this, I would just like to encourage our viewers to post any comments or questions along the show. So please tell us how this all began.
Oh, so you know, the event is you saw the name Hadran. There's Michelle Farber and Rabbanit Michelle Farber and other people involved in this. And I really, you know, I just got the opportunity to be part of it. But that you saw the energies in the room, right?
Unreal.
Really unreal, and unreal in the sense that people, you know, came home and said, I want to be part of it, you know, and part of it doesn't necessarily mean learning Daf Yomi. There are many other ways of being part of it. I'll tell you, there's a part there in the video where in the end they say, so maybe now, maybe it's the time that we're not complete without it. I want to tell you what that is all about, okay? And then we'll go back into, there is an Agadita, a medrash in the Talmud Yerushalmi, the Talmud of Eretz Israel, that in Masechet Ta'anit, that describes this moment that all of history was, you know, was geared towards, the moment when there'll be a kiss between, you know, the divine and the eternal to the mortal and basar v'dam, flesh and blood, and that moment of the kiss, it's like the Leonardo da Vinci, only they get to touch each other. that is described very, very graphically. I might even say anthropomorphically. It's when you describe the divine in physical terms, and it feels uncomfortable. So it says there in the Midrash that Luchot HaBrit were being given down, and there were 9 tefachim high. You know, a tefach is a fist. So there were 9 tefachim.
10 Commandments.
Yep, the tablets, right?
Tablets, the tablets, right.
Today, when you say tablets, you think of other things.
Right, that's true. the original tablet.
Exactly. So there were the bottom 3 tefachim were held by Moshe, and the top 3 were held supposedly by God, by Kadosh Baruch Hu, and there were 3 tefachim in the middle. It was like in just exactly the moment of the kiss, of the transferring of the divine gift down to human beings. And then suddenly there's noise, and they look down and they see right under Sinai Chet HaEgel, the sin of the calf. And there's actually, you know, while Torah is being given, there is idol worship going on right under it. And there's a description there of like, almost like in reflex, God wants to pull back the tablets, the luchot, and he pulls them back. And Moshe Rabbeinu holds on to it and pulls it down. And there's like a tug of war. There's like, you know, pulling on both sides. And there's a moment of tension there. Who's going to win? Now, it's not exactly a fair fight, but we do know that the tablets ended up staying in Moshe's hands. So what actually happened there? What, you know, if Moshe got the tablet, it means that at some point HaKadosh Baruch Hu let go. And that's the description in the Yerushalmi. But the commentators ask about this. What was it about Moshe that caused this? That made God, supposedly let go and tell him, it's yours, it's your gift. And it's Kliyakar says that at that point Moshe Rabbeinu had nothing to lose. You can't retract already. At this point, he felt incomplete without the Torah, and it was only staying with it and putting all the effort and desire into that, pulling back at it, because there's no other option.
With everything that he just experienced, right? Taking everybody out, you could imagine, working through that, getting to that point. He wasn't going to let go so fast. If you think about it, right?
And also the height. I imagine the spiritual height of Sinai. Right. There's something in other descriptions of mystical encounters. There's almost a temptation to cross the line because you don't want to come back. Yeah. And Moshe came there with a mission. He didn't drink, he didn't eat 40 days, etc. But he can't come back without the Torah. That it's already, he's incomplete without it. So and just because we're minutes before Shavuot,
that's right.
There's a similar scene when Ruth begs Naomi, she wants to join her, and Naomi says, "No, stay here. I don't have any more sons. You're not going to have any kids through me, And she tries and she tries and she tries, and at some point Naomi lets go, and she says, "Okay, come along." And the verse, the pasuk that says it is "Vateret ki mit'ametzet hi lavo." When she saw the desire, she saw the effort, she saw how she's all into it, she said, "Okay, I'll gift it to you. Come here." So the sentence they brought in the end of the highlight was that sentence of saying, maybe it's the time already where we're incomplete without it, and we just we can't let go. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu will see our efforts and our desire and gift it to us.
Right. So, right. But this is something that has been learned throughout time. But this is something special, first time for women. Why did it take so long for the women to get to this point? Were they not studying before? Give us some of the background of what the Talmud, study of Torah, and let alone the Talmud, in for women specifically.
So the basics are that there is a positive commandment for men to study the Torah in any available moment. Yeah, V'adita bo yomam v'layla, and the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is an essential part of Jewish existence. And women had an exemption. Okay, women were, since there are a lot of reasons you can say, but being part of the household, being being in worlds where women's education wasn't the top priority, though there are biblical descriptions of the time of Chizkiah, where the sages say about it that there wasn't a boy or girl that didn't know or all of the most complicated halachot of taharot. So it's not so simple to say that women didn't know anything. But classically, men were the ones that did the positive mitzvah, and women had an exemption. Now, there is discussion in the Mishnah, in the Talmud, about what that means. Does it mean that they're forbidden? Does it mean that they can do it if they want? Does it mean that they're parts of the Torah that they must invest in studying? They're like different options, and in the Mishnah and in the Talmud, it's not even ruled positively. It's not decided, for instance, that it's prohibited. But the whole argument, it's not about Talmud, it's not about Gemara, it's about learning Torah at all. It's about learning Parsha. So over the generations, there were always singular women that were outstanding and had a passion for Torah and became very versed in Torah and Halakha and Talmud. We hear about Bruria, who was actually a Tana. Yeah, she's the wife of Rabbi Meir and the daughter of Hanina ben Teradion. And from the descriptions there's some unbelievable stories. You can understand that she's actually walking in that midrash. She has things to say to the pupils if she thinks they don't study well enough, and whatever. She's totally versed in it and immersed in it. And actually, she's quoted in halachot. In some places, they say, "Well, Bruria said the right opinion, etc."
So it wasn't such a foreign concept for a woman to study, even though it was singular.
In our mind. Right, but it was very singular. Even the story of Bruria, there was a late edition that doesn't appear in Talmud that turns it into a problematic story, and you don't know if it could be a model for many. But then we hear about the daughters of Rashi, or about a woman like Osnat Barazani in Iraq that becomes she's a daughter of a Rosh Yeshiva, and I think he had no sons, so she was raised like a princess, and he taught her all the Torah. And he became very busy traveling around the world collecting money for the yeshiva. So she became the Rosh Yeshiva. And when he died, she took responsibility. So there's very, very special cases like that. But it wasn't a common thing. And it was a bit foreign. Women used to study the stories of the Talmud, the chapters of, Pirkei Avot, things like that. But then, okay, we go back 100 years, okay? One of the people it wasn't so clear in that video, but some of the women in the video are Haredi women from the ultra-Orthodox community, where Talmud study is not common for women. There's some rabbis, like the Lubavitcher, thought that it's a sign of Geula. But most of the ultra-Orthodox community doesn't approve of it. But those are groups that, the women there that were part of the Siyum HaShas. And one of them mentioned Sarah Schneerer. Now, Sarah Schneerer, she grew up in Krakow, and she always loved Torah, so she always connected to it, and she went to shul, etc. But there's a turning point when she's a refugee that comes from East Europe to Vienna, and they take refuge there during the war, and there's bombing and very difficult times. And because she's so connected to Torah and to prayer, so she always finds a shul to go to, even in the bombing. And she walks into the shul. It happens to be Shabbat Chanukah, and it happens to be, she doesn't know where she's walking into. It happens to be a shul of Rabbi Dr. Flesh. He's a student of Rashar Hirsch, Samson Raphael Hirsch. And again, chanted. It's Shabbat Chanukah, and he decides to dedicate his drasha, how do you say?
His sermon
to women's role in the story of Chanukah and in the history of the Jewish people. And he turns his eyes up to the women's balcony.
This is what year? We're talking the first 1917, right? Yeah.
1917. And he looks up and he speaks directly to the women. And Sarah Schneerer writes in her diary, she describes this whole experience, and she says, "Never in my life did anybody acknowledge that I'm actually there. So the first time I felt somebody was recognizing that I was there and was directing his Torah words and encouragement to me, to the women there. And then something clicks, and she said, all these years that I was so frustrated with the girls in Poland. Now, the situation with the girls in Poland was that just a while before that, like a generation or half a generation, they started having obligatory education systems that everybody has to go to school. And the Jewish boys had the Jewish learning system, the Cheder and whatever. So the government let them go there, but the Jewish girls never went to school. So once there was a law that made them go to school, they went to the public Polish school, and they learned Polish history and Polish literature and Polish nationalism, and their best friends, were the modern girls that were dressed modernly, and they became ingrained in Polish culture. And suddenly they started being embarrassed in their brothers and, what went out at home. So at home, they would keep Torah and mitzvot, But outside, they were part of the modern world. And then, the boy that went to the cheder had to marry the girl that went to the Polish public school. And it was like two worlds. It's, how do you call it? Fiddler on the Roof?
Yeah, we had a good show here, yeah.
So that's the story, the first one takes the shidduch they give her, and the second one has, communist idea, and the third one marries the guy.
Right.
So Sarah Schneer, in this moment in Shabbat Chanukah, where for the first time in her life, somebody picks up her eyes and acknowledges that there are women there, she says, those girls in Poland that I was so frustrated with, poor girls, nobody ever bothered to say one good word about Torah to them. Somehow everybody took it for granted that they'll do what their mothers did and their grandmothers did, and they'll be a good Jews with no education, with no Torah learning, with no encouragement, with no emotional connection. Nobody did that work. So she writes to her brother that she wants to, she has this idea, she has this dream, she wants to start Torah learning for women. And, in the beginning, he tries to tell her, you know what, this is going to be a political issue. Why do you want to do this to yourself? And she says, no, I whatever things. And she gets a blessing from the Belzer Rebbe and then from the Chafetz Chaim. And she starts very, very small with a small group of women, girls. She understands that she has to start very young because it's hard to take teenagers and teach them things they weren't used to. But she tempts them because she tells their parents that she'll teach them how to sew. She's a seamstress. And while they learn how to sew, she teaches them Torah. And very quickly it catches, and she has to train teachers, and she opens a seminar. When she dies, 1935, there already, before the Second World War, there are over 30,000 girls going to Beis Yaakov all over East Europe.
Wow.
And it was probably a need that she tapped into, and she got the support of Chafetz Chaim, that was a great authority. And it's very interesting to hear what the Chafetz Chaim says about it. He says, well, in our Bavonotenu, in our bad, how would you translate that? We're not deserving. So our generation, the girls, their grandmothers knew how to be good Jews just, from being, from learning from their grandmothers.
He was like apologetic.
Yeah, he says, our girls, they're far from their parents often, and they learn so many other topics, and we really need to, he uses the verse, Et la'asot la'Hashem eferu Toratecha. Sometimes in order to keep the Torah alive, you have to break the Torah, and he permits the girls to learn Torah. Now that's Beis Yaakov, but Beis Yaakov created a revolution. Sometimes we look at Beis Yaakov and we say,
they're the Haredim of today, right?
Exactly. But and people say, what would Sarah Schneer think of Siyum Hashas of women? But
well, that was exactly my question.
What do you think?
Is this what she had, envisioned? I mean, you talk about the, like you say, we mentioned in the highlights, we see the Haredi, or she calls herself even the new Haredi, where her mother says, "Why do you want to study Talmud?" I mean, is it now accepted? Is that something? Is women Torah study evolving, or what? How does it look in the Haredi eyes now? And what would Sarah Schneer say to this? Is this what she in her vision?
Okay, so the world of Sarah Schneer isn't exactly the world of today. So I don't know where she herself would find herself in the whole spectrum. I think what she was striving to do was connect the Jewish women to Torah. And one of the opinions already in the Mishnah is that women must, as a mitzvah, must study the parts of Torah that pertain to their Jewish life. So, you can read it as a very narrow path, learn how to put the things on the plata on Shabbat, how to prepare your coffee, or how not to feed your family non-kosher. But you can also say, the late Rav Lichtenstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, he said, what you need is an emotional connection to Torah. And for emotional connection to Torah, you need serious learning. If you can learn neuroscience, whatever, and all your talent and all your excitement is there, so to get a deep emotional connection, you have to have a real intellectual experience and a wide span of things. And so even, you don't have to say other opinions like Ben Azai that says that the father has to teach his daughter Torah. Even if you only say that middle opinion that says you must learn the things that pertain to your life, that could be a very wide path. Because, if you're going to connect yourself and connect to the next generation and create a deep, yearning for Jewish life, it needs to be at least at par with the other studies in your life, with the other things that take over your mind intellectually, at least. Okay, so that could be a lot. And if you ask what's going on today in Haredi world, it's Haredi world is not one world. It's many, many, many different places. So I mentioned Chabad before, where the Rebbe was very pro women's learning. He actually described it as a stage in Geula and redemption. And there, I'm not saying that all the girls learn Gemara, but they all learn Rambam, and they all learn very, very high level Torah. And also in the Beit Yaakov, there are parts that they learn very seriously, and different parts of the Haredi world have different stands on it. I'm not saying they're all excited about the women's Siyum HaShas.
Yes, right. I mean, I guess, there is, with Yentl, there is no reason to have a Yentl today, right? With all the advancements of, opportunity for women to learn, there's no need for a Yentl to have to disguise herself as a man to be found in the Bet Midrash today, because of all the opportunities available.
The truth is, now with Corona and Zoom, you can be anywhere, anytime. I was in, for the last 24 hours, I was in Australia and South Africa and Kiryat Shmona and Yerushalayim and London. By the way, my kids aren't so happy that we didn't end up going. They were very excited.
Well, definitely going to have to, have you guys over at one point. So, I mean, what's interesting is, you talk, like we said, it's the Shavuot coming up, and, it clearly states there that when Moshe went up to Hashem, right, Moshe Allah Elokim, the Lord called to him from the mountain saying, you shall say to the house of Jacob and declare to the children of Israel, right? Bet Yaakov and Bet Israel. I mean, that's where, and we know that the sages tell us that Bet Yaakov are referring to the women, right? Hence, Sarah Schneer's whole Bet Yaakov.
Right.
How here clearly, here they had the concept of teaching the Torah to the women and then to the men. Where did this idea of not teaching women, why wasn't it so available back then?
So I mean, it really goes back to the things we mentioned. On the one hand, there are different approaches halachically. We said that in the Mishnah and the Talmud, there's three different opinions. Either it's a good idea and you have to teach her, or it's a terrible, terrible idea. I'd rather have the Torah burned than women study it, or the middle one that says whatever pertains to your life, you must study. And it's not ruled by the end of the Mishnah and the Talmud. But then there are very dominant people like the Rambam that has a very complex opinion. On the one hand, it sounds like he's stringent about it, like Rabbi Eliezer, that he says that Chachamim said that women that the fathers should not teach the girl. But on the other hand, he has other openings. He differentiates between Torah Shebechtav and Torah Sheba'al Peh. He said Rov Nashim Datan Kala. Most of women, and we're talking uneducated women in the world that he knew or Chazal knew, Rov Nashim aren't suitable for high level intellectual Torah learning, and over the generations, women were the backbone of Am Yisrael. They whether they studied Gemara or they said the Shema Yisrael with their sons before they went to sleep. they did pass on the essence. They did, if there was a good Jew, it was because his mother taught him how to be a good Jew. But over the generations, this world of Bet Midrash, that is really the heart of, where Jewish life grows, women weren't part of it, only in very, very rare cases. And that is changing.
Absolutely, because we see. I mean, how did even going back to the times of the prophets? I mean, how did Devorah become Devorah, right? Here she was able to to judge over the Israelites back then, and even going a little fast forward to Nechama Leibowitz herself, great modern Torah scholar. How did she become? She must have studied. How did these women become such educated women back then without the Beit Midrash, the Talmudic, place of study?
So Devorah was a prophet. So what you needed to be to become a prophet is first righteous, okay? And then it depends how you view prophecy. Is it a form of top wisdom, like the Rambam says, or it's through the righteousness itself? And also, if you say, okay, it's good for a prophet, but what could we say?
Right.
Nechama Leibowitz is an example of someone who goes after her desire. Now, she comes from a German family, so they were very big on women's education. They just wanted everybody to be educated, and she had such a passion for Torah that it not only grew a whole world of learning Tanakh. It was contagious to the men she taught. I know to this day so many rabbis that say Morati Nechama Leibowitz. She asked that on her tombstone. They write, they could have said a lot of superlatives. She just wanted it to be written a teacher. For her, it was the top compliment.
It was, yeah, absolutely, you could, for sure. So I read that you. Sure. Okay.
I was just curious to think, what do you think Sarah Schneer would have thought?
So it's interesting because she comes from a Belzer Chassid, right? She comes from a very for me that's pretty Haredi Hasidic background, and I wonder.
My family is also Belz.
Oh, okay. So there you go.
My mother is Roka.
Okay, so I should ask you what she thinks of you studying Talmud today, because actually that was going to be my question. We'll get to in a moment, but I'll answer your question first. So I think it's interesting how I think it as we see it evolves, right? Possibly she was dealing with the time that the girls were not getting any Jewish education, right? So here it was a huge step for her to even create a place for girls just to even study, possibly just to the basics of what they need to know to have to live a Jewish lifestyle, and then continued on to the Chumash, to the Tanakh, to the Bible, and then I think as time evolved, it increased. So I think she would be proud today. I mean, I'm sure. I wonder how, here, I wonder what the Haredim think of that girl who quoted her and said, "Listen, I'm finishing this Talmud now because of Sarah Schneer," where I know she did get a few, even back in the day, she had a few pushbacks, that it wasn't such an easy thing for Sarah Schneer to create an institution for the girls.
Right. They would probably say it's a slippery slope.
What's next? Right. What's after the Talmud? Right.
Should we go there?
So because I read that you were the first graduating class of Matan's Advanced Talmudic Institute. So what is that? What was that exactly? And what motivated you to get into that? Like what did that mean for you?
First of all, it was a tremendous gift because I'm not from the very first generation. People like Malka Bina, who established Matan, and Hannah Henkin established Nishmat, and a few figures of Bravender at Lindenbaum, a few figures that started the Torah learning for women. In fact, I must mention my father that started the Medrasha in Bar Ilan, was probably the first institute in 72, something like that. And I didn't have to fight for it. At the point where I approached Bet Midrash, there were people offering things, saying, come learn, maybe we can give you a scholarship, things like that. And it was an unbelievable gift, because many of us were already studying a few years, and then there was like a gap, because okay, so you can read a daf Gemara, but if you want to advance, you want to really grow in Torah, there wasn't the next step for women, and it wasn't as available now. You can just crash a yeshiva Zoom class, and they don't even know you're there, and you're learning Talmud in the highest level. But that class today, the first graduating class, they're all over the women's Talmud Torah. I can start name dropping, and it would be in this middle and that, and it was a tremendous gift.
Was there backlash?
No, for us there was no backlash. I know it was difficult starting, 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier, but at this point, at least in the circles it's not like everybody's crazy over the idea, but no strong opposition.
So do you think there are different attitudes towards women's learning in Israel as opposed to the diaspora?
One of the issues that comes up is the title. Okay. Now I don't know about London. Actually,
well, London, they're very into titles here. The lords, the sirs.
So you're Canadian?
So I'm American, actually, but
you're
I lived
American.
in Canada. Yes.
Okay. Because otherwise, sometimes I get this inferiority complex when I speak to English people, and they all sound so intelligent with this English accent.
Yes.
So I feel comfortable with you, but at least I don't know England that well, but in America, there's tons of tension around the title, okay? And not only the titles, but actually the roles, because a typical American community would have a rabbi, an assistant rabbi, a junior rabbi, a few roles in the community, some of them ordained, some of them all paying jobs. In Israel, there's no money in shul, in community. Any rabbi he also needs a real day job. And also we're not big on titles, and we're not so big on pulpit sermons. So a lot of the things that create the position overseas are kind of, they don't happen here. And what that caused is that the growth in Torah, and people started first in Tanakh, and then they wanted Talmud, so they studied Talmud, and naturally after many years of Talmud, it was a natural move into Halakha, and whatever growth there was, it was very organic, and there was hardly any big disputes about, so how are we going to call her? What's the role? Does it mean that we ordain women, or does it not mean that we, all that stuff? Like Yotzot Halacha, okay? Yotzot Halacha for 2 years studied the full curriculum of family purity issues. It's Talmud, it's Bet Yosef, Shulchan Aruch, all the responsa, all the Nosei Kelim. It's the full syllabus. And also all the medical side and the psychological side and so many things, fertility, so many things that pertain to that. And
it's like an elective for.
You know what? I wish every rabbi on the planet will learn all these elective things, because that's what you deal with. You deal with contraceptives, and
right.
Those are the things you have to know. So. And then the Yotzot Halacha are grilled for 4 hours by a set of 4 rabbis, test them, etc. And they get permission to answer halachic questions in this field of halacha. Okay, so we can start fighting about the semantics. Is it called a psak? Is it not a psak? Whatever. And the truth is, for the first 20 years of Yotzot, and now they're Yotzot already for 20 years. We were very, very careful not about the wording, about the title. Chas v'chalila, nobody should think that we're I'm careful with the word.
Right,
at this point, it's not the English. It's just the words I don't want to use. But in practical terms, the rabbis are happy about Yotzot, most of them. Most of them are happy to let women deal with the intimate stuff and work with them. And in this field, we're kind of colleagues. Even in Corona time now, there were so many issues around mikvah, a ton of things to do. And Yotzot and women in these fields played a major role, both with the community and with the rabbis and with the government. And it was I think it was a gift for Am Yisrael.
It was, absolutely. I think the fact that we're able to zoom in, zoom in or StreamYard, whatever you want to call it, have this all the way opportunity, like you say, you're traveling the world doing Torah teaching is really fabulous. So I want to thank you. Thank you, Racheli. Thank you for bringing us such wonderful insights into women's learning and the amazing work that you do for Klal Yisrael, for the entire community. And we really look forward that one day you and your family will owe it to your kids to hosting you back here in London very, very soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And let me just say Mazal Tov to the women that are being honored now. It's so wonderful that they take such an important role in the community. And may we all have good health in our communities and lots of Torah with the joy of Torah, with the clearness of Torah. And Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach, Chag Sameach. So thank you once again. So we just heard about the amazing advancement for women in Torah studies. And so there's no more appropriate time to hold the Chochmat Lev Awards. These awards are for women who have contributed to our community and beyond. And we want to wish Mazel Tov to Zoe Sinclair, Julia Alberger, Aviva Kaufman, and Hailey Feller. I now give you Donna Brass, who will continue with tonight's proceedings.
Thank you, Rabbanit. It's my absolute pleasure tonight to introduce the 4 women who are our honorees for this year's Chochmat Lev. Of course, we should actually all be in shul at the moment having tea together. But hopefully you'll have a nice l'chaim in front of you as we meet virtually and try our best to celebrate in unusual circumstances. Since this is my first Chochmat Lev, I decided to do a bit of research into the meaning of the phrase. So I hope you don't mind if I spend just a couple of minutes talking about this. We first find the phrase Chochmat Lev mentioned in Parshat Vayakhel in Shemot. Moshe assembles the children of Israel and instructs them to build the Mishkan, a sanctuary and symbolic home for Hashem. V'chol isha chachmat lev biyadeha, tavu v'yaviu, matbeh et hatechelet, ve'et hargaman, et toalat, hashani ve'et hashesh. Every wise-hearted woman spun with her hands, and they brought the spun yarn of turquoise, purple, and scarlet wool, and the linen. The phrase literally means wisdom of the heart. According to Rashbam, a grandson of Rashi, this means an intelligent woman, while according to the Rambam, this refers to a skilled craftswoman. Perhaps the answer is that Chochmat Lev combines a little bit of each. The women who were able to combine intelligence with their skill in what we now call emotional intelligence, or perhaps an inner bina or sixth sense that women tend to have. That's what makes us so special. The parsha goes out of its way to emphasize the role that women played in making the Mishkan. We're told that Vayavo ha'anashim al hanashim. The men came with the women. This is largely interpreted by commentators as implying that the women came to make their donations of jewelry first, and the men then followed. It also implies that the women were the ones who generously rushed to contribute, while the men needed a bit more time to absorb the request. It's also made clear that women are among the community's skilled artisans and that their expertise is acknowledged and valued. This is what we're here to celebrate tonight. 4 very special women, all very different, but who have each brought their passions to HDSS and the wider community and inspired us all with their own personal blend of Chochmat Lev. So first up this evening is the wonderful Hailey Feller, whom many in our community will know from heading up the Cheder or Aleph Center, running summer camps at Camp Kochavim, and for delivering amazing educational and volunteering opportunities for teenagers at Project Impact and The Zone. What many of you might not know is that Kylie also founded Step Up, which is a program that provides vital life skills and education in innovative ways to young people living in refugee camps in East Africa, working in partnership with local communities. And she also established the International Jewish Educators Network. Kylie is driven by a desire to encourage and promote social action in the wider community and empower young people, and is listed as one of the rising stars of Anglo Jewry. She's a woman who's always searching to do something innovative, a strong leader who knows how to bring the best out of her team. We have so much to thank Kylie for in terms of her commitment to our children and youth, and for her energy and dynamism. Mazel tov, Kylie, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Dana, for the very kind words. And it's a real honor to receive this from the community, especially with 3 amazing women receiving it together. So thank you so much. And it's particularly special to have Racheli Frankel as part of this event. She's really a remarkable woman and a real inspiration to me. So it's great that she was here and part of this. And I was thinking a little bit about what Chochmat Lev means and how true wisdom can't only reside in the mind or in the intellect, but actually needs to permeate us and affect our personalities and our actions and our choices. And I think this is a real important aspect in a community. And as you mentioned, when it came to building the Mishkan in Vayakel, God wasn't looking for capable people or intelligent or productive or skilled people. God asked for people who have Chochmat Lev, inner wisdom. And I think that this aspect is such an important part of building a strong and connected community where we all support each other and are there for each other. And I feel very blessed to be working and to be a part of Hampstead Garden Suburb Synagogue. I got to know so many wonderful people throughout the years that I've been working here, doing lots of different roles. Is great because I got to meet lots of different areas of the community. And I have actually worked here for quite a while. I started working when I was 14 years old as a reader, an assistant at the Cheder, so many years ago. Perhaps not as long as Mark or Avrami Freilich, but it's definitely been quite a number of years. And I'm grateful for the opportunity of working with so many great colleagues and staff and rabbinic team and HOs. I've definitely learned a lot. And I'm not going to list them all because the list is too long, but I'm grateful for all their support, and definitely to my staff and my team at the Zone or at Aleph Center or any of the projects, because it's a team effort. Whenever there's a good program or a good project that takes off and is a success, there really is quite a team behind it. So I'm grateful for all the staff that have been working with me. And lastly, I just want to mention that I definitely value all the people that I've met, the families and individual people over the years who have now become a part of my life, and I appreciate their friendship. And I'd like to end off by wishing the community Mechail El Chayil, that it should go from strength to strength, both in a communal way, but also individually, each of us as well. So, L'chaim.
L'chaim. So, thanks, Kylie. On to our next recipients. Our next recipients have done so much in the field of mental health within our community and beyond, always very quietly and modestly. Julia Albergo started her career as a Marks & Spencer lingerie buyer, sounds like a great job, and then moved into the Jewish not-for-profit sector. She spent 4 years at Jewish Women's Aid, 6 years at Ort, and the last 2 at the JLC. She's passionate about positive mental well-being, youth engagement, empowerment, and opportunity. With her belief in the importance of community and the power of social responsibility, in 2009, she founded the Ort Jump Mentoring Program, which matches students with someone who's already established in their career of interest. And the program now covers 7 Jewish and 5 non-Jewish schools in Camden, matching over 250 students each year with the same number of mentors. In 2018, she became very aware of the mental health crisis that so many of our children were struggling with, and she recognised a gap in the community. Thanks to the JLC, she created a 3-year pilot project, and they now have 5 full-time wellbeing practitioners working across primary and secondary schools in London and Manchester, and their work is monitored by the Anna Freud Centre. Julia is also a governor at JFS. So together with Zoe, Julia helped organise a wonderful event hosted at HGSS earlier in the year, which took place over Mental Health Weekend. Some of you may have been there. The event was about the resilience of the Thai boys who were trapped in a cave. And they helped bring 2 leading child and adolescent psychiatrists to our shul, one of whom is the Thai Minister of Education who had met the boys. So it was a lovely, very successful event. I'm going to quickly speak about Zoe, and then I'm going to let both of them speak. But Zoe is also being honoured for all her efforts in the field of mental health. She was born and bred in the suburb, and after making TV programmes for the BBC for 10 years, she set up her own company, Employees Matter. Its mission was to improve the personal and professional well-being of the UK's workforce, guiding them through issues of physical and emotional health, parenting, diversity issues, and general well-being. And then in 2018, she launched a workplace mental health conference. Most of her work now is outside and inside the community is now focused on mental health. She's a governor at Matilda Marks School, where she takes the lead on mental health. Shul-wise, she's been on the board. She actually helped start up the Norris Leader. And of course, she helps with the security and Kiddush Rota. But most importantly, she was actually my deputy head girl at school. And I remember looking up to her as a religious girl representing the school in such an important position. And I knew then that we'd be hearing a lot more from her. So over to Julia and Zoe, mazel tov to 2 women who really do know how to get things done.
Thank you so much, Dana, for your kind words and this beautiful honour shared with such wonderful, humble women who have made such an impact to so many in such differing ways. Although I may not be the most regular Shabbos attendee at shul, the Norris Lee community has really shaped my life over the last 20 years. From my family to my friends, we've all grown up as adults together, and we've shared and supported each other through good times and more challenging ones. I really appreciate the friendships I've made with so many of the rabbinic team over the years. We have an incredibly communally minded, active, generous community that has really taught me the important values in life and has given me the opportunities to develop new and innovative projects to make change for good. And for that and to those individuals, I am truly grateful. I'm very proud, together with Simon and our 3 sons, to be part of HGSS and all that we stand for. Thank you again for this special honour, and l'chaim.
Thank you as well, Dana, for your very kind words. I do find it amazing that even though we both left school quite a long time ago, we are now part of the same community. So I have to say I was rather taken aback when Dana approached me about being one of the Chochmat Levs for this year. It was something I certainly wasn't expecting, and I'm deeply honoured, and especially to share with these 3 other wonderful women. So, as Dana said, my life in HGS started a long time ago. I'm one of those fortunate people that was born in the suburb, and I haven't ever left. And I've been a member of Norris Lee all my life. In fact, it was part of my ketubah when I said yes to Archie's proposal that we had to live in the suburb. So this honour has given me the opportunity to think about my community involvement, which really started when I attended HGS Cheder. I was taught under the headmastership of Mr. Dover, and David Liu reminds me regularly how he remembers my bat chayil with Rabbi Jackson. But as time went on, I became a member of the board for a few years, as well as assisting the wonderful Hilary Halter and my former neighbour, Derek Taylor, published the Norris Leader. But I also can't help smiling when I hear about the shul mother and toddler group in Marami, which many of you might remember I started 18 years ago, and then it was called Norris Nippers. So as a family, we try and be involved with as much as we can, with our children, Emily and Joe, taking on roles as part of the youth as well. In fact, I make no bones that this little story I'm about to tell you is taken straight from Emily's Devar Torah for the youth this week. She told the story of a wealthy businessman that was flying back from China in first class. In front of him were parents with a baby who just wouldn't stop crying. The businessman called to the air steward and said, "Look, I've spent a fortune on this seat. It's ridiculous that I've got this crying baby next to me. Please, can you do something about this?" And the steward said, "I'm really sorry, sir. There's nothing we can do. In fact, you should know that this couple have just adopted this baby from an orphanage in China, taking the child from a life of poverty to a life of opportunity in the UK." The man obviously had no idea about this and went straight to his bag, wrote a hefty check and gave it to the couple, saying, "I'm really sorry. I complained about your crying baby, but want you to have this as what you're doing is amazing." What's so significant about this story is that this tiny piece of knowledge changed the outlook of the businessman. And what we can gain from this is understanding about perspectives. As Dana mentioned, a lot of my community and certainly my professional life revolves around mental health, specifically in the workplace. And perspectives play such a huge role in this. It's important that we don't make assumptions about mental health in order that we can break down the barriers and stigmas that exist. From the person who might be worried about disclosing to those who may be being disclosed to. Whether we're part of a school, a charity, employ staff, or a part of the community, there can be many, many perspectives, and we must use them all wisely. So I'm very proud to be part of this HGS community, and I really thank you all for this honour this evening. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Thanks, Julia and Zoe. And finally, but by no means least, Aviva Kaufman. As well as being a mother of 4 children and wife of Andy, most of us know Aviva for the passion she brings in trying to ensure that women have a greater involvement in shul services. Aviva set up the HGSS Women's Megillah reading 18 years ago, and it's now, as we all know, a very thriving and regular Purim event attended by over 100 women. More recently, she's organised the HGSS Women's Kabbalat Shabbat, and she co-organises Coffee and Conversation, where she brings in very innovative and exciting speakers to the shul. Yet outside the shul, she continues to give to the wider community as a maths teacher to vulnerable young adults at Gateways at JW3. She was also a very active school governor for 9 years at Northwest Jewish Day School and has been on the shul board a few times. And she's currently on the Susie Bradfield Educational Leadership Programme run by LSJS. But most importantly, from what I know of her, Aviva is a very kind and giving person. Mazel tov, Aviva, and over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dana. I'd like to thank the rabbinic team, the honorary officers, and all the shul staff and volunteers who keep the community together, especially in these difficult times. Many people mistakenly think that I am married to the new chair of our shul, or at least to his younger brother. I would like to thank my actual amazing husband, Andy, who has always encouraged me, even when I have doubted myself. He's always helped me in practical ways, like teaching me to lane Megillah, and over the years, making hundreds of recordings of Megillah Esther for the women laning. There are women throughout the land and beyond who listen to his dulcet laning tones every year whilst practicing in advance of Purim. I pay tribute to my parents who provided me with a love of Torah, a sense of community, and a decent education so that I can do the things I do within the community. I also take this opportunity to add that I am grateful to HGSS for the warmth and help that they have shown to my mother. Also to my parents-in-law, Flo and Aubrey, who've done so much for the community, particularly Flo, who received this award last year, and in our house is now called the chair mother, and to my children too. I'm also delighted to be joined by friends and family from around the globe. As Dana said, my day job is teaching maths at Gateways, which is based at JW3. Gateways is an education and vocational provision that supports vulnerable young adults and those experiencing mental health challenges within the Jewish community. I love this work because we see young adults who had often lost hope thrive and succeed. Additionally, this July, I will, please God, have completed the year-long LSJS Susie Bradfield Educational Leadership Programme, which trains lay Jewish women to develop their skills as adult educators and leaders. I have learned that though we have world-class rabbinic scholarship in our community, you don't have to be a rabbi or a rebbitzin to share your Torah thoughts with others, whether in the home or to a wider community. And we've heard this from Rabbanit Frankel. I'm particularly keen to encourage more women to do this, and likewise for them to inspire others. It doesn't have to be a whole coffee and conversation, although Sarah Frompson and I are committed to offering a gender-balanced program of speakers, but just to have the confidence to talk Torah. And now I am going to talk some Torah. One scholar I have been inspired by is Yael Ziegler, a modern-day expert on the Book of Ruth, a real Talmidah Chachma. I'd like to explore briefly, one of her ideas. She asks, given the Talmudic tradition that Samuel wrote both the Book of Ruth and the Book of Judges, why did we need Ruth to be a separate book? The Book of Ruth even starts with Vayehi bimei Shafot HaShoftim, and it was in the days when the judges judged. The Book of Judges includes so many characters and their stories. Why could there not have been just this one extra story? The Midrash Rabbah says, why was the Book of Ruth written? To teach how good is the reward for those who do kindness. But we have so many instances of kindness in the Tanakh. Abraham was also the model of kindness, and a whole nation came from him. The key is to compare the end of the Book of Judges with the end of the Book of Ruth. Judges ends with the shocking event of the Pilegesh Begiv'ah, the concubine in Giv'ah, which began the horrific civil war and ended with Bayamim Hahem Ein Melech B'Yisrael, Ish Hayashar Be'einav Ya'aseh. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did as he pleased. This culture of each person doing as they pleased is still present in Megillat Ruth. For example, Rashi says that the reason why the wealthy Elimelech and his family left Eretz Israel during the famine was because he turned his back on those who were suffering. In contrast to this setting, at every stage, Ruth shows extreme kindness towards her mother-in-law Naomi, and Boaz shows kindness towards Ruth and Naomi. At the end of Megillat Ruth, Ruth and Boaz are married. There's lots of blessing, and we are given the lineage of Ruth, right down to King David, a new era where, in contrast to the end of the Book of Judges, there is indeed a king in Israel. Megillat Ruth and the theme of outstanding kindness is the resolution to the problems in the Book of Judges, and hence Ruth has her own Megillah. Ruth is a very appropriate story to be reading now. We are in challenging times, although obviously not the same as during the Book of Judges. But I do see as the kindness of our times going some way to help resolve this terrible situation at the moment. Finally, it seems apt to pay tribute to my three co-honorees, Zoe, Julia, and Chaeli, who each, in their own way, through utter commitment, have shown this kindness and love of their fellow person. I feel privileged to be honored among them. Thank you, Chag Sameach, and I wish you well over the cheesecake.
Thank you, Aviva. Thank you very much. And so sadly, that brings an end to our Chochmat Lev ceremony for this year. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and thank you to our recipients for the amazing contributions they have made and for their incredible words tonight. All that remains for me to say is L'chaim, to wish you all Chag Sameach and to hand back to Rabbanit.
L'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim. Mazel tov to honorees, and Yasher Koach Dana, Yasher Koach to Edward for all your incredible work behind the scenes and putting this all together. And
yes, we really appreciate all the efforts that everyone did here, and everybody spoke so beautifully. And hopefully we'll see you all once again in Shul very soon to celebrate in person. L'chaim, Chag Sameach.